time at Juve, Chelsea, and Inter, and draw some parallels with his time at Tottenham to see if Conte really is this creature of habit that we suspect him to be.
Do you think we'll see
Let's
them
take a
win
look
something
at the
in
life
our
cycle of Antonio
That's not like
Conte.
the Audi Cup or some shit.
Before we get to that, however, I'd like to
We'll
thank
see
our
them
sponsors,
win
OneFootball,
something?
for making this video possible.
They won
OneFootball
like a
ensures you can
friendly
stay up to
tournament the
date
other
on
day.
all of the
Like
things you care
a year
about
ago
in
or
football, whether that be Tottenham, the Italian national team, Antonio Conte, or the thought of Harry Kane renewing his contract once
Maybe
again
Conference
with
League.
Tottenham. Just download the app, follow all of the competitions, teams, and players you care about, and watch as your homepage gets populated with articles, breaking news, and videos to enjoy. Watch football highlights. You can even watch live matches within the app, depending on your geographical location, and so much more. So use the link in the description or use this QR code for a free download on Android or iOS, and you'll be right up to date on all things in the football world. Thanks, OneFootball. Before getting into his history, it's worth taking note of how things have gone so far at Tottenham. The club has seen its fair share of difficulties recently. Yes, Pochettino getting to the Champions League final with that Tottenham squad was a major achievement, but domestic form had slipped to the point where he was sacked in late 2019. Bring in Mourinho, a man who has won trophies with every club
Bro,
he had managed since
Pochettino was
FC
the
Porto,
coach
and
of
while he had been
PSG.
able to bring Tottenham to a League Cup final, he was sacked just over a week prior, so he didn't get the opportunity to finish the job. League results were poor, and his replacement, Nuno Espirito Santo, was just as poor. Espirito Santo had built up
That's fucking
You want to play this
crazy.
game?
That's fucking
What?
crazy though. He really got up to the final. Mourinho was about to win their first ever trophy, and they fucking sack him.
In what tournament?
I think it was FA Cup.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
What'd they lose to?
Man City.
Oh, fuck.
a lot of
Wait,
charitability in
Pochettino was there before Mourinho, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, he
Mourinho.
took him to the Champions League final.
yeah, but
Barca
we
kept him.
literally- Yeah,
thanks to
and,
his first
and we were about to get to them, but we let them win. Fucking.
few seasons with Wolves, taking them from the Championship to the
Bro,
Europa
it
League.
was, I was just
But he
imagine
was promptly
if we made it
sacked
to the final
and replaced
and beat
with
Liverpool,
Antonio
right?
Conte. With Conte, there was
They would've
always a lot of
said,
suspicion that
this
it was
Champions
an
League
odd
doesn't count
pairing,
for
an odd
Messi.
couple.
He beat Spurs in
Conte
a final.
with Daniel Levy. But there were some football romantics, such as myself, that had faith that maybe he was looking for a change. Maybe he wanted to challenge himself, and he would divert from his usual behaviors that he has become notorious for, infamous for. Nope, same Conte. 3 months after his appointment, he was already saying things like, maybe I'm not good enough for Spurs after a run of bad results. And as is always the case with Conte, there is almost zero assurance from him that he will stick around. This season, the complaints to the media about the squad and the backing of him have reached another level, to the point where it's accepted that he won't be around next
Okay.
season. In this video,
Wait, what?
we'll go
No,
over
it's-
in detail the exact same experiences that Juventus supporters had with our friend Beppe from Jesus Juve on YouTube, the Chelsea experience with MAH or Matisse Amani, and the Inter experience with Uncle Sharma. All three are great friends of the channel. They're linked below, so do check them out. Now, before we get into this, guys, it's worth noting that I spoke to all of these creators separately. I know that the video of the interviews has already sort of alluded to that, but I didn't have the others hiding and listening in the lobby or anything. They didn't know each other's answers. So keep that in mind when you're listening to the answers and the parallels that are drawn. And with that in your mind, let's talk about the good times.
When we announced Conte as the coach of Juventus, we were all super happy. Enthusiastic you can't even imagine. But you have to put everything in context, of course. It's his first real big team that is coaching Juventus. So he doesn't have that big experience as a coach before that. He was one of the promising upcoming coaches, but not the coach that Antonio Conte is today. A son, because don't forget, he has a huge career as a player at Juventus. He became also captain of Juventus.
I would say he's one of those managers that kind of live through the game emotionally. Like he's not one of those, you know, sit on the chair managers and kind of assess things in a calm fashion. Or he's one of those people that he feels like he's kicking every ball, he's involved in every tackle, and that's because obviously maybe he's a former player and his nature was always kind of that as a player as well. He's that fiery kind of
I hate these guys. They're
passionate
shooting.
type of player. When he came in, I kind of knew that this is exactly what Chelsea are used to in terms of characters with Mourinho, and that's what the fans love.
The risk was worth it with Conte's track record of winning and changing the image of teams. I think was just too good to look past, because that's what Inter needed. Like, we were going through, we just came out of the Banter era. We finally returned to the Champions League. Obviously, Spalletti's doing well now, but his track record wasn't that guy to take you to the next level, and Conte had that track record. So I was all in, even though obviously I knew about the potential drama that he brings.
And that immediate impact is the exact reason as to why he continuously gets jobs, why he is still
Oh,
so
no.
sought after by clubs. Well, he also has a habit of winning
Bounce
wherever he goes,
backwards.
except for maybe Tottenham. But can we really judge these managers for failing to win at a club that no manager has won at since 2008? It's fair to bring that up, right? I'm sorry, Spurs supporters. Everywhere Conte has gone, he has raised the level of the team. That is a fact.
We both
I
got
think
sucked.
for
bro.
him, one of the biggest pluses was the kind of work rate and mindset
What are
that
you
he
eating?
instilled from the get-go. The training, from what I remember, reportedly, was kind of just so vigorous, so
What?
intense, and it was like no nonsense whatsoever.
I consider Antonio
Conference.
Conte
Yeah.
a fantastic coach in terms of arriving at the club, boosting the club. Nobody, or not a lot of people, can bring
Oh
the
my God.
immediate impact that Antonio Conte has. It's crazy.
Even at Inter, where he brought legendary fitness coach Antonio Pintus with him, you had players like Lukaku speaking of the intensity of training, how it's not only physically demanding, but he whips the team up into a furor, getting them ready to go to battle week in, week out, saying, quote, "Training is actually a war zone. Our manager doesn't play around. He doesn't like when we hold it in." And of course, while the first season with Inter is the outlier here, as he didn't win a
Uh-oh,
league
get
title
up.
with his first attempt with the Nerazzurri, he was revolutionary at both Chelsea and Juve previously.
The start of the season wasn't actually that great until
Pass
that
the damn
Arsenal
ball,
game at the
bro.
Emirates. And then he just flipped
Let's
the
go,
system.
bro.
And
You were trying to get a free
predominantly,
kick.
No one had really played a three at the back up until that point. Everybody was traditionally in their four at the back kind of set mould. And he was the first manager that I can remember at least to come in and flip things tactically and go, I'm going to go with this three at the back. This is what we're using in Serie A. This is what we're using with the national team on a consistent basis. We flipped it after the Arsenal game, and then we just went on this ridiculous run. It was just a time where we just felt like, once again, we were a little bit unstoppable. On that run, 5-0 against Everton, beating Manchester United at home, beating City away. We were just a machine, and he made us into a machine. It was brilliant. It was quality.
Look, the first season of Antonio Conte is for every single Juventino one of the top 3 seasons ever in the history of Juventus. We don't lose any game. And for a team that is coming from 2 times being 7th is a miracle. But I have to say that first year is magical. Magical first year where everything is
Magical.
going perfectly. Style of play, victories, not losing. You feel again you are proud to be a Juventino about what you are representing.
Juventino.
We win that Scudetto.
That's
We
what
lose
they're called.
unfortunately that Coppa Italia last game
Bro,
of Alessandro
what is
Del
that?
Piero in the end of the season. But it's perfect. Second season we win again the Scudetto, so it's 2 in a row. But there it started already to be a bit more complicated.
Conte is box office. Conte was entertaining on the
Beautiful.
pitch as a player. Conte is entertaining on
Ah,
the touchline
they're sick, bro.
as a
These guys are
manager.
too good.
Conte is entertaining
How
in
do
the
you
press
get
rooms
fast,
as well,
bro?
at least when things are going right, if you're a supporter of the club he's at. But for everyone else, he is especially entertaining when he is seemingly unhappy with what is happening at the club. The common denominator when it comes to things going south with Conte at Juve, Chelsea, and Inter seems to be the transfer market.
Towards the end of the season, it starts in press conference where
Ah.
in front of media. And on press conference, it starts already with some words against a player, against the company, against the club, never taking any responsibility. But it's not that big, huge of a deal. So you can even potentially agree with him on things, but he starts speaking about transfer market, that he doesn't have the players. And that's the beginning. But as we win,
What if he's
second
just
Scudetto
always
in a
saying the
row,
truth?
that year we also win the Supercoppa. We
He just can't
forget,
handle
we
it.
are happy. We still are Juventus that is winning, and we are happy. He was and is a really impatient person, and that's where it started.
Who's
Second
that?
year, third year is going full power
referee,
with
so you can pick up the ball.
request of players
going to the locker
publicly.
room.
He was asking for Quadrado.
Oh,
he was asking
brother.
for Iturbe, that became
We don't have a
flop after
shot.
that. But also a big sentence that he's saying at Juventus became world
Maybe we
famous
need
thing about
Larturo.
the restaurant. He said, You can't eat in a €100 restaurant
Maybe when he gets
with €10 only. And when you're seeing this in press conference publicly, you're putting dirt on your club. It's not really appreciated.
And there wasn't much of a difference at Chelsea either. The cracks really began to show in the summer prior to the 2017-18 season, where Diego Costa had been told that he wasn't needed with Chelsea. You remember that text where Conte allegedly said to Diego Costa, quote, "Hi Diego, I hope you are well. Thanks for the season we spent together. Good luck for the next year, but you are not in my plan." Oh man, thanks for the season iconic line. But yes, there's a link between a
He's
certain
good,
striker
that's
causing friction between Conte and the club that employs him. That player being
Lukaku. Lukaku versus Morata. And we're seeing already now in the present day, Lukaku with Conte at Inter Milan versus Lukaku without Conte at Inter Milan. And then the replacement in Morata, not Lukaku, for whatever reason, and he ends up going to Manchester United. That is the key turning point. Because if Lukaku comes in, maybe Chelsea continue to go in their similar manner. Obviously, the Lukaku version that we've got in the present day is not what is not the version I'm talking about. But obviously, Conte and Lukaku as a duo, you could understand why he wants to work with him because when they
Kim
work
Sap, what
together,
is
they
that,
seem to
bro?
get the best out of each other.
Well, funnily enough, just a few weeks after he joined, I thought he demanded for Lukaku to join, and it was dragging on for ages. You know, United wanted loads of money, and Inter were
Fuck.
trying to push, but not as much as Conte
Nah,
wanted.
what was
so
that?
I honestly think to this day, if Inter didn't land
I was talking
Lukaku
about-
when he first signed for us, Conte, I think he would have left that summer, like within a few weeks of
These
joining.
guys are
because
sick though.
He
but we
was
got
so adamant about getting Lukaku that, you know, it seemed like the whole project was based around it. And obviously you saw the 2 seasons Lukaku had under him, so maybe he was correct.
so at both
Wow.
Chelsea and Juve, he felt as
Fuck
if
these
his
guys.
success with the clubs prior to investing
score
in the
this, please,
squad
please,
meant
please,
that he
please.
warranted being backed in the market.
I would
and that
get
he
mad if
should
we
have
score
the
this
players
because
that
we
he
don't have a
needs to
single
elevate
shot.
Juve to the next level. The next level being a deep run in the Champions League, of course.
That's
which
right.
I
Conte
do
is
get
famously
mad, yeah.
poor at managing the war of two
We don't
fronts,
deserve
managing
it.
2 competitions at once. It has always been
Keep
one of his
going.
weaknesses.
Fuck these guys, bro.
However, what makes the Inter situation just slightly different was that he didn't win anything in his first season, but funnily enough, came close in a European competition.
We had an amazing, you know, it was the post-COVID season. The Europa League was all mashed up into like one mini
brand.
tournament almost.
Yeah,
We had a great
fuck,
run
fuck,
until
it's
the
okay,
final,
we're
and then
heading
there
back.
he starts Gagliardini, who, as Inter fans may know, is not one of our favourite players. We had Ericsson there, you know, we had other options that he could play. He started the final.
Oh,
with
dude,
that.
those are good,
So
those
that
are good.
last moment of the first season ended probably on a little bit of a sour note, and that's when he started calling out the ownership and directors as well.
And we'd later
That
find
was
out
not-
in February of 2021, where Conte had learned that the
He
quote,
hit it.
Inter project was frozen in August. No
What?
point
Wait,
in
what?
hiding.
What?
He cleared it with his head.
The ball
Once he's
literally chased
unhappy,
the
there's no
wrists.
changing his mind. And while he may not come out and directly beef with the board members and call them out by their names, the change in his demeanor is noticed by all. At Chelsea, that's where it was perhaps the most noticeable, given the complete change from sharing cake with journalists to a negativity that was palpable.
I definitely could tell in his press conferences that he was agitated, he was annoyed, he's probably like mentally starting to kind of tap
Bro.
out as the season went on. He was starting to kind of
Holy shit.
almost playing against us in a way. And again, this is what we're seeing at Tottenham. Now,
Beyond-
the
or
last
beyond.
season at Chelsea, for him, even though we picked up an
You got
FA
him, you
Cup
got me,
and
you got me.
finished fifth,
Oh,
it
nice,
was
nice.
a very
You-
kind of like, it felt like quite a
Fuck
hectic
these
season.
guys. Fuck.
It felt like a
He just
season
came
where
on.
The inevitable is he's going to leave. The inevitable is he's not happy. The inevitable is that
That's
it's
fucking
almost sabotage
Beckham
vibes that
for
we're
you,
getting
bro.
now. And
Bro,
we're
I'm
seeing
so
that at
surprised he was
Tottenham now
not.
with some of the tactics deployed in North
Nah,
London
it's
Derby.
me,
It
bro.
does
My
genuinely
passes,
feel
come
like
on.
sabotage because of the way that he sets up and kind of allows an opposition to
What
just
a tackle,
dominate
go.
and destroy his team and not really do anything about it.
You could feel it every
What is that?
post-game conference. Even if he was winning or losing, that he was sending some signs. These small things where you see that
You see
he's
me middle
happy.
when he-
Questions about will you renew, will you stay last
You like
next
that
year?
ball?
Where he's
You
not
like that ball?
answering.
I love it.
And he's doing it
Pass it
now
back.
also. He did it with every club where he is.
What?
He doesn't know. He needs to see. He
And
needs
all
to
the
check.
options.
And this is not okay because you're actually pointing out the finger to your club, saying it's a club that
Bro.
is responsible for me not remaining because they don't
Go for
give
him.
me what I need.
Wait,
Second
what?
season, even though we went on this amazing
guys cleared the
run
ball?
after we got out of the Champions League, we pretty much dominated the Serie A after that and won the league quite easily. But he kept, you know, throwing remarks about you know, I'm not sure if I'm going to stay. I'm not sure about the project. You know, there was rumors that Inter are going to have to sell big players to make ends meet. And, you know, literally 2 days after we won the Scudetto, he parted ways with the club. So it wasn't a surprise, to be honest. It wasn't a surprise.
What's kind of funny about this, in a sad way I guess, is that in some respects, one of the main, if not the main cause for Conte's anger at each of these clubs has been down to transfers and not feeling as though he has been backed by the club. But some of his best, or at least most impressive work has come when he has had to make do, or at the very least, when he didn't get every player he asked for.
I think from what I remember, the first season he was happy with what he had. I mean, he had Kante come in. There were a couple of signings that, you know, from a Chelsea point of view, I didn't feel like I was excited by those. It wasn't the window of Fabregas, Costa, Felipe Luis under Mourinho. It wasn't that. And he got the best out of some players that I never really thought could have Chelsea careers. Victor Moses being one of them. He managed to turn him into a flying wing back on the right-hand side and made him a pivotal key player in the team.
I feel like a lot of times he actually does better when he doesn't have the resources. I think even at Inter, you know, that final year, we didn't really, apart from, you know, as I said, Vidal, free transfers and like low-cost transfers, he had to make do what he had, you know, reinventing Perisic as a left wing back. So he actually probably does better when he doesn't have as much investment.
Go get in the box.
With managers like Antonio Conte and Mourinho, these man-manager types, not to take away
You're
from
in.
their tactical acumen, of course, but these guys who are so gifted when it comes to getting their players to kill for them, to run through brick walls, that can absolutely be a double-edged sword. Of course, that wasn't really the case at Inter, or at least it hadn't gotten to the point where it could be because Conte was building in a different way. It wasn't instant success. That came in the second season, and then he was gone. But at the other clubs, there was almost a sense of relief once Conte had left. At the beginning, it was great, and his techniques bring out the best in everyone.
The first game versus Parma is fantastic. You go in, beautiful sun in the middle of August. You start having a beautiful football and entertaining football. New stadium. You smell still the painting of that stadium. Everything is perfect. We win 1-0 versus Parma. The players going to the locker room with a big smile until their ears. Antonio Conte is starting to take bottles of water and throwing at them. And they don't understand because here we are winning 1-0. What do you want? And he says, this is not okay. This is absolutely not okay. And you see a Lion team coming on the field for the second half. We go to the 4-0. Unfortunately, in the last minutes, ex-Juve player Giovinco scores a penalty in the 89th minute. And he's
Damn, what year was
off.
this?
And that already show you what is Antonio Conte. It's not a mystery that his daughter is called Victoria. Victoria means winning, victory. And because he's doing it because he's a crazy guy. He wants to win. It is an obsession. Juventus needed this. He was the
So they
coach that
scored
is going to
4-0
the
in the
articles
second
of the
half and it's
papers,
so mad.
cutting out and
Bro.
putting them on the door, saying, look,
What the fuck
look
is
what they're
that?
saying about you.
This is exactly what Chelsea are used to in terms of characters with Mourinho. So I knew he'd fit right in that mold, and the Chelsea fan could get to grips
Was
with
that
it.
the
But
guy
I didn't
next to
think
you?
it would be a long-term manager, because I do feel like you've got to have some sort of variety in terms of your emotions if you're gonna go through the ups and the downs of a football club. And I think he's shown time and time again that he probably doesn't have that.
He's able to enter
That's
the emotions of the player and to
Fuck
put them
these guys.
over capacities playing with that fire, with that passion and so on. That works the first year. That works the second year. The third year starts to be really hard because what he's doing is repetitive. The first time that when he's throwing a bottle of water against you, you are scared. The 10th time, you don't pay attention anymore. You know, like putting these papers on the doors, it works in the first year. It can work for the youngsters, the new ones, the third year, but all the other ones, it makes them really emotionally tired. When he left Juve, there were a lot of players that said, good.
And unfortunately, he seems to be the kind of guy who, when it isn't going his way, he'll pick up his ball and go home, so to speak.
Oh,
It's
fuck.
interesting because even in winning, he's willing to step away from a club, which speaks to him as being a very, very
I'm holding Holland.
peculiar character
Hold
of
on with
football,
me.
doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm convinced that
Hold on
most
with
Inter
me.
fans will say to you, he had one more year of contract left. Yes, we sold Lukaku. Yes, we sold Hakimi, but we saw last year, you know, when Inter, you know, kind of bottled the Scudetto to AC Milan. If he stayed and, you know, built, just finished his project. He could have won another Scudetto, and he walked away from that. And then now, I don't even know if it was really worth it going to this Tottenham team. It looks like he's not staying
Might
there
need a
either.
new
and he's
video.
not going to be getting any trophies there.
We
So
get
yeah,
it.
he's definitely a
That's
man of
fine.
principle. He does definitely stick to his ideals, football-wise and morals-wise.
And if he's willing to walk away right after winning the Scudetto with Inter, I mean, yes, some context is needed there when it comes to finances, etc. But as
It's
Uncle
not
Trevor
asking.
pointed out, it wouldn't have been that bad for him player personnel-wise. But if he's
You want to just play against each other?
Roberto Baggio is one of my favorite
we're tied.
footballers because he was a legend in every possible way. Last week I mentioned multiple times how incredible Messi's numbers were, how he kept on breaking records, how he was already an all-time great by the age of 22.
Anything else on
But
the
the thing about
home?
Messi is that he didn't
On
stop
YouTube?
there. If what you heard last week sounded
30
impressive,
minutes.
trust me when I tell you that
Well,
what
I
you're
think
about to
already now.
witness today is gonna make you question reality. How could someone
Wait, bro, look at that
possibly
video.
be that
Video.
good?
40 minutes. Son?
Well,
What is actually rest
extraordinary
defense?
talent
That's,
is something
the
only
Atletico
very
defense.
few are blessed with. But talent like this is only for one man, Lionel Messi. Over the summer, Messi took part in the 2010 World Cup, being coached by none other
What about
than
the
Maradona.
penguin?
Though many hoped this pairing would bring
okay, bro.
Argentina a
Watch
lot of
Messi, bro.
success, the tournament was a major
Bro,
disappointment, with Messi
you're not
failing
being
to
real-
score a
for
single
real
goal
when you say you
and
wanna watch.
only getting one assist before Argentina was embarrassed in a 4-0 defeat to Germany. Regardless,
What the
Messi
fuck
made
is even
sure
the
to
title
be
of the video?
incredible right from the
Messi's
start of the
career?
next season. Shockingly, Barcelona had
know.
lost the first leg of the Spanish Super Cup 3-1 against Sevilla.
Let's watch the Ronaldo
And
on
so
you.
in the second leg, Messi did
Started off the pitch. This foul seemed intentionally
They don't even have a
excessive,
good
and Portugal
narrator
players
for
would
this,
furiously
It's
clap back.
Ronaldo.
The match would be a never-ending sequence of bookings, with every foul being more horrific than the one that came before it. By the end of the match, there had been 16 bookings, including 4 red cards, both being all-time records in the competition. If you think that the next round could not match the drama seen in the last 16, well, you're wrong. As Portugal faced England for the quarterfinal match, Bruni would eventually step on Ricardo Carvalho, and Ronaldo would be seen pleading with the referee to send off Rooney, to which he would concede. Seeing this, Bruni would get upset at his Manchester United teammate and would confront him on the pitch before being sent off. By this moment, Ronaldo was already public enemy number 1 in England, and all became much worse when he was seen winking at the bench. Still, Portugal would win and move to the semi-finals,
Is that alright
where they
or
would
not?
beat France. Portugal will dominate the match, having twice as many
Okay,
shots on
Portugal.
target and having the edge in terms of ball possession.
Bro, I'm
But
getting
one
the one
moment will
FPS
define the match
when
as
it gets
Ricardo Carvalho
animation.
would slip and end up fouling Henry. It was
Holy
lead to a
shit.
penalty that Zidane would convert.
That was
this
pretty
becomes
nice.
even harder to digest for the Portuguese fans, since in the
Let's
first
do
minutes
better,
of the
bro.
match there arguably was a penalty that should have been awarded to Portugal. Back in England, Ronaldo would feel overwhelmed by the hate he was receiving. It would take a toll on him, especially as Alex Ferguson would not come out to defend him.
Yeah, two options.
This would lead to a drastic decision.
Yeah, so
Ronaldo would announce publicly that he wanted to leave Manchester United for either Real Madrid or Barcelona. At this moment, Ferguson was forced to intervene. He would have a private talk with Ronaldo, and he would decide to eventually stay. Soon, it would be clear that this would be one of his best decisions. Right in his first season after the incident, despite the boos, despite the hate, Ronaldo would
The
take his
incident.
game to an all new level. Notably showing up to the preseason much stronger than he used to be, known for being the fast,
Fucking
skillful,
swimmers.
scrawny kid in all
That's
of
the
muscular
craziest
and
sweat I've
rugged.
seen.
Yeah,
This season,
My
he would
guy scored
nearly
it from the
double
corner
his previous
flag.
goal-scoring record.
Bro, look at their
He would win
celebration.
consecutive Player of the Month awards, and despite all the drama, his relationship with Rooney would look better than ever on the pitch, as the duel would lead United to a Premier League title and show how capable this team was by making it all the way to the semi-finals of the Champions League, where they would lose to AC Milan, who were nearly unbeatable at the time. And just like this, we arrived at the 2007-2008 season. He would improve on his form even further, and by the end of 2007, he would have amassed 40 goal contributions in 50 games, which would get him a second place in the Ballon d'Or, only behind Kaká. But Ronaldo was never one to be happy with second place. For the rest of the season, he would show us how hard he could push himself. In January, he would get his first ever hat-trick against Newcastle. Then, he would score one of the most memorable free kicks the Premier League has seen against Portsmouth. In the Champions League, he would carry Manchester United throughout the group stage, getting 5 goals in the 5 matches he played. As they went into the knockout stages, he would score in the last 16 against Lyon, a goal which turned the tie around, granting them access to the quarterfinals where they would destroy Roma 3-0 on
Bro.
aggregate as Ronaldo scored one
Did that
more.
normal.
Then they would meet Barcelona, who would become the only team Ronaldo didn't score against. Still, they would win on minimal margin as Scholes got a single goal over the two legs. The great players proved themselves in the biggest stages, and so far, Ronaldo had failed. But now, it looked different. He had ascended to a new form, and he looked like a new player. It was time for the Champions League final. And Manchester United would face Chelsea in the first ever final between two English teams. It didn't take long for Ronaldo to show he was there to win. By the 26th minute, he would tower over the defenders and get the first goal of the match with a magnificent header. Man United would absolutely dominate the match. Chelsea would only keep afloat as they got saved by Petrochet over and over again. But against the flow of the match, Lampard would manage Chelsea's only shot on target after two consecutive deflections, and by pure luck, they had tied the game. They would manage to maintain the draw, and the match would be decided on penalties. Despite his great performance throughout the match, Ronaldo would miss his penalty. The tension would rise as John Terry came to the spot to take his penalty, knowing that if he scored, Chelsea would be champions of Europe. And then, he slipped. Quite literally. As they went to the sudden death,
so funny.
Van der Sar would save Anelka's penalty and Man United would be crowned champions of Europe. It took years of crafting his body, evolving, of developing the strongest mindset football has seen, but Ronaldo had ascended to champion of Europe, top scorer of the Champions League, being voted player of the match in the final. Domestically, he would be equally as dominant, leading Man United to a second consecutive Premier League title as he beat the all-time record for most goals in the Premier League season with 31, despite missing 3 matches due to being banned after headbutting a player at the start of the season. He would total 51 goal involvements in 49 matches across all competitions. That year, he would nearly win everything a player can possibly win, including his first Ballon d'Or, where he managed to get nearly 200 more points than second-place Lionel Messi. This would certainly not be the last time these two would fight for the title. It was time for another Portuguese assault at the Euros. This would be a very meaningful competition for Ronaldo, as it would be the first time he would captain the national team and the first time he would put on the number 7 shirt for Portugal as Luis Figo had retired.
Nice.
Despite this, the tournament would not go Portugal's way, as although they breezed to the group stage, they would meet Germany in the quarterfinals, who have been known to always cause Portugal trouble, and as usual, Portugal would be knocked out in a 3-2 loss.
Germany's
During
like
these
the bane
last
of
few
so many
months,
teams
Real
in
Madrid
Premier
would
League.
start a conversation with Ronaldo.
Good damn
Man
German.
United, fearful of losing their star player, would take legal action, trying to stop
Wait,
Ronaldo
what? Why did he
from
duck?
leaving. At first, there would be problems between the club and the player, leading to FIFA president Sepp Blatter to call it modernized slavery. It would all end with Ferguson convincing Ronaldo to stay for 1 more year.
Well, you
and
know,
Ronaldo promising
Russia
his
is
fans
calling
that
the
he would
current
give his heart
Germany the
and
Third
soul
Reich.
to retaining the Champions League trophy.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it would start the season poorly, missing 11 games due to a fractured
That
knee.
was
Despite this,
a long
as he
gap.
returned, he
Oh.
would look as powerful as ever, getting 2 free-kick goals in the same match for the first time in his career, something he would manage to do 3 times over the next 3 years. At the end of the year, he would win the Club World Cup, getting an assist in the final. In the Champions League, they would once again look to be one of the strongest teams in Europe, first beating Inter Milan with Ronaldo scoring the second goal. Then they would meet Porto,
keeping him
who
on,
would stun
man.
them in the first leg as they managed the 2-goal
What'd you say?
draw. This draw would only be broken by Ronaldo.
No,
who in ludicrous
he was
fashion,
staying on.
only 6
I
minutes
didn't-
into the match,
when I
would
fucking
get the
switched
ball
that guy,
only
he
about
was
4
already, like,
meters in front
keeping
of
him
the
on.
center circle, and with no second thoughts, he would bang at top pins, leaving Elton with no chance. By the end of the year, this would be awarded the Puskas Award, and we forever remember as one of the most insane goals ever witnessed in the Champions League. In the semi-finals, they would blaze through Arsenal, with Ronaldo scoring twice, and they had arrived at the final. The key moment, a match against Barcelona.
What happened
Ronaldo
was-
and Messi meet once again.
Bro,
And
you
this
see what he
time
did? He
there
did like
was
a
no way of
blender, and
stopping
my guy
him.
just went flying.
It would get signed by a world-record fee of 94 million euros, crushing Zidane's 8-year-long record of 77 years. That same year, Florentino Perez would also
got
spend huge amounts of
Mbappe.
money on Kaká and Benzema, as he seemed to want to recreate the success of Los Galácticos. His contract would make him the highest paid footballer in the world, nearly doubling what he earned at Manchester. This contract would also be notable as Real Madrid defined his release clause at 1
We got
billion
minted, remember?
euros. On the 6th of July of 2009, Ronaldo would step onto the Santiago Bernabeu for the first time. This would shatter the all-time record for biggest audience at a player's presentation, set by Diego Armando Maradona as 80,000 fans awaited Cristiano Ronaldo.
Damn.
That day, club legend Alfredo
What
Di
did Messi get
Stefano
at
would
PSG?
present Ronaldo with a number 9 shirt.
Probably
Not
less
the
than
number
that.
7, as club
Their
legend
stadium
and
probably can't
all-time
even
top
hold
goal
that.
scorer Raul was still playing for Real at the time.
Wait, was it
Soon after, he would have his debut against Deportivo de La Coruña, scoring his first goal from the penalty spot. He
No,
would
that
also
was
score in his first 4 league
two
games,
years-
becoming the
might have
first
been.
ever player to do
Yeah.
so
Because
for
when he
Real
left, he
Madrid.
didn't get a present.
He would also score
Oh,
2
yeah.
free kicks in his debut for Real Madrid.
And he had a mask on while I was crying.
His blazing start to the season would be stopped as he suffered an ankle injury, leaving him out for 7 weeks. As he returned, it would be time for the Ballon d'Or ceremony, where Messi would outperform him for the first time, as Ronaldo only managed second place. Despite Ronaldo managing 7 goals in 6 Champions League matches, Real would be out of the competition in the last 16 round. By the last game of the season, Real and Barcelona would have only 1 point difference, but Real would draw the last match, collecting 96 points despite the second place
How are they
finish.
always
This
there?
would have been enough to beat the record for most
Bro,
points
look
in
how
the season
wide they're
if it were
playing,
not for
like, you see?
Barcelona managing 99.
Holy
This way,
shit.
despite the great performances, managing 39 goal involvements in 35 games, Ronaldo would end his first season with Real Madrid without winning.
No,
any
why?
trophies.
Bro, what you doing?
Everything's happening so fast. I don't know what's happening.
I'm like that. No, I'm not.
My
I'm not
guy's
trying to
artist.
change. Because I like this. I like.
Yeah, might as well go on the
2
bench.
years had passed
That's how
since
wide
last
they are.
international competition, which was signed for the 2010 World Cup. It would be man of the match in all 3 matches of the group stage, but once again Portugal would be knocked out by Spain.
You
in the
see me?
first round. Would go
Oh.
on to win the competition.
I see.
Raul
And then-
had left Real Madrid at this point, and naturally
At
Ronaldo
that
would
point,
take
just
on
shoot or
number
anything,
7 shirt.
dude.
He would start the
The
season
angle,
on
bro, I was
goal,
gonna turn it
4
past him,
goals
man.
in a game for the first time in his career.
Look at the AI just fucking keeping up with
He would
Mbappe,
also
so
get 3 more hat-tricks before the
Why?
Ballon d'Or
Why?
ceremony.
And I couldn't switch to him, bro. I was spamming
I
away.
know, I
Despite
know.
getting 65 goal contributions in 59 games that year. This was probably the best ever performance not to be rewarded with a spot on the podium. That year, Real Madrid got paired up with Barcelona in both the Champions League and the Copa del Rey, while also playing with Portugal.
I
Totaling
can't
up
with-
to 4 matches against Barcelona in the same
I was
year.
open before he
Ronaldo
did the
was scoring
fucking
goal
ballerina.
to tie the
Then,
match.
after
He
that,
scored the only
everything
goal in
went
the
out
final
the-
of the Copa del Rey, magnificent, towering
I don't
goal
even wanna go
to
for it.
Maxi Clemente to bring the trophy to his
Bro, what are
This
you
failed
doing,
to
man?
save
You
Real
take to your
Madrid
last
as
team and then you
Barcelona
started like
knocked them out of the
throwing.
Champions League while going on to
We
win
played one against
Let's
each
go.
other.
before the end of the season, he would
Yeah,
score
yeah.
3 more hat-tricks, including 4 goals against Sevilla. Once again, despite managing 92 points, as Ronaldo shattered the goal-scoring record in the league, becoming the first ever player
You
to
gonna
get
leave this right
40
now?
goals.
Yeah.
Real would not win.
They're gonna have to score the
Still,
penalty
Ronaldo
first.
would become the first ever player to win the Golden Boot in 2 different leagues. As 48
Wait, you
goals
know they
would
won't.
be impossible to repeat, Ronaldo would manage 46 the following season and would finally
Bro, it's
manage
cause
to beat Real
Ronaldo.
Madrid,
It's the Ronaldo video. That's why we
getting
played
100
that.
points and smashing the all-time record. Ronaldo would total out 60 goals in all competitions that season, 10 of them in the Champions League, in which Real got knocked out in the semi-finals once again as 2 goals.
Coentrão is one of the most mysterious players of the last decade. He went from being a little kid
I
from a
can't.
little town to being compared to Ronaldo and then becoming one of his closest friends.
What? He's
in
a left
British
back.
darkness. He started off
compared
as
to
a winger
Ronaldo.
and ended up becoming one of the most
Oh,
defensively
shit.
sound fullbacks of his generation. His prime lasted for a little more than 2
He
years,
was a
but
racist.
somehow he managed to become a cult hero in Madrid, being their secret
Not
weapon
even play.
as they conquered La Casa. Even after his career started fading, drama kept surrounding him, from club betrayals to a literal militia of fans storming the club's training grounds and beating up the players, to finally retiring way too soon and becoming a fisherman. He was always a living contradiction, which only made his story more interesting. Enjoy. It all started in Cascais. Quintron grew up watching men sailing to the sea in wherever janky boat they could get, hoping that the money they got from their catch would be enough to feed their families. Unfortunately, every year one of the boats ended up not making it back to shore. It's a tough life that breeds even tougher men. No one would judge him for dreaming of the day he would get to leave that town. But he didn't. Even when it became obvious he was gifted, he never resented his origins. He never felt like a big fish in a small pond. He completely embraced them and allowed himself to become a reflection of his people. Their biggest pride.
Bro, this is just fucking brain rot.
At 13, he left school and began working. He painted houses, he learned how to bake bread, and even worked in
Why?
construction. And then
Dude,
his
we're
family
watching
decided to move
Quintra
to
build a house. Living alone.
Whether it's Kevin De Bruyne winning the PFA Player of the Year award or George
You know what? Actually, it's not that bad. Who the fuck this is?
Whether it's
Wait, no,
Kevin
no, go
De
back,
Bruyne
go
winning
back,
the
go back.
PFA Player
Please
of the
go
Year
back.
award or George Honeyman being
That Osama bin Laden
whether
thing.
it's Kevin
Where is the home? Bro, you literally made it load 200 times. Trying to back up. Nah, you ruined it. Okay. Why are you so
whether
ass
it's
at
Kevin
going
De
back?
Bruyne winning the PFA Player of the Year award or George
I don't know
Honeyman
which
being
mouse better than
shortlisted
this,
for
you
the
know,
League
like
One
the
Player
one
of the
Oh.
Year. There is a
I played this
subtle
one.
within the world of football when it comes to individual athletes. It goes something a little bit like this. Sure, it's great to get that kind of recognition, but ultimately, it is a team sport, and there are 20 to 25 lads in that dressing room who've all played their part in what we've achieved this season. The odd player, most notably Cristiano Ronaldo in recent years, may buck that trend, but by and large, that is the answer that you will get. And unlike so many of football's tedious cliches, that one is actually true. Football is a team sport, in which no man is enough, and no trophy has ever been won solely by an individual. No, not Cruyff in 72, not Matthews in 53, and not even Diego Maradona in 1986.
You got done there, mate.
Stops us from trying to pick out individuals for recognition. Just to be clear, when I say that football's awards have become meaningless, it is individual awards that I'm referring to, not team trophies. Clearly, the Champions League or the World Cup are not meaningless. Similarly, awards like the Golden Glove or Golden Boot are not meaningless. They typically tend to do what they say on the tin, recognising the player with the most goals and the goalkeeper with the most clean sheets. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're the best goalkeeper or the best forward, but nor is it meaningless since it merely recognises exactly what the award claims to recognise. No, in today's video, I'm referring solely to the world of football's many subjective individual honours based upon performance. And
Where's
I
the
say
Dubai
many
Ballon d'Or?
because there really are a great many of them. There is the Ballon d'Or, which was briefly the FIFA Ballon d'Or. There is the FIFA The Best Men's Player Award, which splintered from the FIFA Ballon d'Or and
This shit
was
makes no sense.
previously the FIFA World Player of the Year Award. There is the UEFA Men's Player of the Year Award, the Golden Boy Award, and my personal favourite, the Globe Soccer Best Player of the Year. Now, those are just a
Talented.
few of the global, or at least European-wide awards.
At least
Of
doing
course,
all this then.
there are many other individual accolades in different leagues, countries, and continents. These include the
Bro,
FWA
that guy
Football
reached
of
the
Year
fucking
Award in
sky.
England, first awarded in 1948, which I believe is the oldest of its kind, at least as far as I can tell. The Ballon d'Or is the oldest and indeed is still widely recognised as the most prestigious of all the international individual awards. So we'll start with that. The first question it is worth
Fucking
asking
Zelensky
ourselves is,
fraud.
what does the Ballon d'Or actually attempt at itself? Easy. The best male footballer over a period of a calendar year. Well,
It was
yes and no. The Ballon d'Or was the brainchild of Gabriel Anno, who also pioneered the creation of France's first nationwide top flight, now known as Ligue 1, and of the European Cup, which we now know as the Champions League. So,
Yes,
a
sir.
busy guy evidently, and a giant in the history of the European game. Anno was himself a French international
crazy,
fullback, but he was forced to retire from football, aged only 29,
It's not like that
after
Arsenal's
he was
back.
injured in a plane crash. He subsequently went into journalism, first for L'Equipe and then for France. who were both owned by the same man. When the Ballon d'Or was first awarded to a 41-year-old Stanley Matthews in 1956, journalists from France Football
41-year-old
drafted the
won the
awards
first
shortlist, picked out
I would
the
be
winner,
mad as fuck.
and awarded the trophy completely independent. This is how the Ballon d'Or initially functioned, but over the years, whilst France Football maintained their administrative
He's
powers
off.
over the award, the voting process became a little bit more democratic. Even today, France
Look, he
Football
doesn't
still
even want to
drafts the
celebrate.
30-man shortlist on their own, but
Shame,
the winner
shame,
from those
shame.
candidates is now voted on by journalists, national team managers, and national team captains from all the way across the country.
The captains
Though,
get to vote.
crucially, only by one journalist, one captain, and one manager from each nation. Contrary to what you might think, the criteria isn't as simple as who played the best over the last 12 months, even if that is the premise upon which some voters make their decision based upon, and what most observers take the awards upon. Ballon d'Or voting actually has 3 criteria, listed by France Football as follows. Number 1, individual
That guy is
and
fucking
collective
Asian.
performances, in brackets, winners, during the
Fucking
year.
16 FPS.
Number 2, player class, in brackets,
Damn,
talent
that's sick.
and
I get
fair play,
4.
in brackets. And number 3, players career. Yeah. Each voter then selects their top 5 players, ordered from 1st to 5th, with
I thought
1
that one
point
in.
awarded for finishing 5th, 2 points for 4th, 3 points for 3rd, 4 points for 2nd, and then 6 points for 1st. With 3 representatives from 176 different nations, there are 7,920 points up for grabs in total, at least at the last count. Thanks to the
What a goal!
Where are you
What a
actually
goal!
going with this?
What do you mean,
Before
what a goal?
giving
That was
them-
literally
That was-
Well,
that
you
was
see,
sick.
you might think
That was
They
sick.
fucking
the 3-point
he controlled it with his
criteria
head,
being
and
spread
the
out
keeper
seems a
didn't
bit
expect.
odd and rather
And it was a
ambiguous,
boom.
but at the end of the day,
Look at the replay.
everyone just picks from 1st to 5th who they think were the best
Yeah, right,
players
under
in
your
the
keeper.
world. Right?
I'm not even trolling. That was sick.
Let's just take a quick look
You just
at
got
the
mad.
voting
I just
records
dissected.
of the 2 most successful players in the history of the Ballon d'Or. As the captains of Portugal and Argentina, Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo, get to participate in Ballon d'Or voting, the only criteria being that they cannot vote for themselves. The same rule applies to all of the national team captains. During his 9 years of voting, 22 of Lionel Messi's 27 votes have gone to teammates of his at either club or international level. Across Ronaldo's 8 years of voting, 18 of his 24 votes have also gone to either his Real Madrid or Portugal colleagues. I think we can all agree that whilst it's pretty reasonable to expect footballers
What
to
is that?
have
What
a
is
greater
that?
appreciation of players that
Oh,
they
the
train
game.
and play alongside on a weekly or at least regular basis, there is no way Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo actually think that their teammates are the 3 best players in the world virtually every year. What's more, and perhaps most tellingly of all, Lionel
Wait,
Messi
so why do
has
they
only
have
ever
to vote for
twice
their
voted for Cristiano Ronaldo at all. And Ronaldo hasn't once voted for
Why do
him.
they have to vote for their
Is
teammate?
anyone seriously going to suggest that
They just
Lionel
do
Messi
because they're
didn't think
biased.
Cristiano Ronaldo was
No,
among the
we
3
just
best
said
players in the world
They
in, say,
surely don't think
2012,
that they think their best
2013 and
teammates are the best players in the world
or
every
that
year.
saying,
Ronaldo,
like,
who
they're
has
captain.
repeatedly referred
They're
to
not
Messi
voting
as
for
the
the
player
actual best.
he has been battling with for supremacy
Yeah,
over the
no
last
shit.
15 years,
So why do
and
they
the
do
player
it
who
still?
drives him on the most, does anyone really believe that he doesn't think Lionel Messi has been among the top 3 players in the world once over the last decade?
Yes.
Seriously? Now,
Yes.
you may say, well, the 2 greatest players of this generation have voted either tactically or
Well, this
with their hearts
video is fucking
rather than with
outdated,
their
bro.
heads.
This is like a
Since
year
this
ago,
format was
when
introduced,
Ronaldo was still
we know
on the
how
field.
competitive, particularly Ronaldo is when it comes to individual awards, but so what?
No, no, no,
They're
control
just
it.
2 votes among several votes. What does it really matter? Except, the point being, they aren't just 2 among hundreds. This is exactly how
Yeah, yeah.
Ballon d'Or voting works, virtually across the board. I just picked out those 2 as the most high-profile examples. Players, managers, and even journalists voting for friends, colleagues, or just with a domestic player base, often with almost a total disregard for actual performances that day. It's a bit like the Eurovision Song Contest.
That's
No,
the most bullshit
seriously,
goal
I'm
of
not
all
joking.
time.
Hear me out. People cast votes for a variety of reasons, often based more on whether they like the personal brew and the nation they are representing, rather than any discernible musical talent. That is why the likes of Ireland, Sweden and the Netherlands are such frequent winners. Or take the example of the UK,
Send them
who were
off.
historically quite
Them.
successful at Eurovision, but didn't receive a single point at Eurovision in 2003, after the announcement that the UK would invade Iraq later that month alongside the United
What?
States. A fairly unpopular decision on the continent.
Oh.
The UK has basically done dreadfully ever since the invasion of Iraq, finishing dead last on 4 occasions.
I'm so confused.
I won't go too far down this Eurovision rabbit hole, but hopefully the parallels are easy enough to understand. What's more though, even among those who don't vote solely
What does
based
the
upon
Ballon d'Or have to do with
friendships,
invading
politics,
Iraq?
and I'm talking about the Ballon d'Or again now, not Eurovision, there are some truly bizarre ones. Let's take 2012 as perhaps the most obvious example, since that was the year in which Lionel Messi scored a record-breaking 91 goals and made 29 assists, giving him a combined total of 120 goal contributions
Offside,
in only 6
yeah.
games,
That was
which
crazy.
is just laughably brilliant. Most reasonable people would say that picking the best player in world football in 2012 then was fairly straightforward. Messi was in a world of his own. So surely everyone recognised that fact when casting their votes for the 2012 Ballon d'Or.
Oh,
Beautiful.
Well,
That was sick.
I'm afraid not. France captain Hugo Lloris was among a number of voters who didn't even put Messi among their top.
I get like motion
as it
blur
was at the
when he
time,
started.
before the introduction of the first of fifth system. Instead, the Tottenham number 1 opted to vote for Iker Casillas in top spot, followed by Radamel Falcao and Didier Drogba. Of course, Drogba played a decisive role in Chelsea's Champions League glory against Bayern Munich in 2012 with an iconic performance in the final. But he also scored 5 goals in 24 Premier League games for Chelsea in the 2011-12 season, and he spent the second half of
That was sick.
2012 playing
Thank you. Holy
a
shit.
legend of the game, no doubt, but even the most ardent of Chelsea fans would admit that Didier Drogba
I don't know, I'm
wasn't better
playing
than
like
Lionel Messi
Arsenal.
in 2012. Lloris wasn't alone. Germany boss Johan Löw, Portugal captain Bruno Alves, and Spanish duo Iker Casillas and Vicente Del Bosque all failed to find room for Lionel Messi among their top players.
I should have
During a
ended
year in which the Argentine, and I must repeat this, scored 91 goals. That ought to have been
Are you gonna
sufficient
regret
ground
that
for an
later?
investigation into crack
Oh,
cocaine
man,
abuse
it's coming.
within the world of football. But alas, that is just the way Ballon d'Or voting works, or perhaps more accurately, doesn't.
Was it the Ballon
I'm
d'Or
just
was
giving you the
responsible
examples
for the
of
invasion of
big name
Iraq?
players and managers as well. If you venture
Wait,
further
how
afield
does that
to
make you feel?
some slightly more obscure names,
Messi's
you'll
the biggest
find
terrorist
even
of
more
all
bizarre
time, yes,
voting
David.
practices. Just take the former manager of the Pakistan Nationals, Mohammed Al-Sham, who, in 2015, put Ian Robin in top spot on his vote card for what was then the FIFA Ballon d'Or, despite the fact that the Dutchman had been injured for the vast majority of 2015 with repeated
Ref.
muscle injuries. Or how
Oi.
about Sri Lankan sports journalist Hafiz Marak of the Daily News newspaper, who in 2019
How did that go in?
overlooked the
Yeah,
Ballon
it's
d'Or
no
frontrunners
bullshit.
Messi, Virgil van Dijk, Cristiano Ronaldo,
Bro, it's
Mohamed
2023
Salah, and
FIFA
Sadio
and they
Mane
said, oh wait,
entirely
I thought that was Odegaard.
in favour
I thought they don't
of
have his
naming
face.
Trent Alexander-Arnold as the
Because
best
Emil
player
Smith
in world
Rowe, why is he
football.
at number 10? Which is
During the same year, Cameroonian journalist
They basically look like that, they don't
gave
space.
his 5 votes to Virgil van Dijk, Mohamed Salah, Sadio Mane, Alisson Becker, and Trent Alexander-Arnold. Meanwhile, Bhutanese sports reporter Hassan Norbu lent his votes to Sadio Mane, Virgil van Dijk, Mohamed Salah, Alisson Becker, and Roberto Firmino, leading some to suggest that maybe it might just have been a slight possibility that both men were Liverpool fans. I could list hundreds of such examples, including Roy Hodgson, who left Messi and Ronaldo out of his top 3 and picked out Javier Mascherano as the best player in the world in 2014, but I won't bore you with it, and hopefully I've already made my point. Now, across the board, the sheer number of votes
Hello?
tends to iron out some of this lunacy, diplomacy and nepotism, resulting in fairly reasonable podiums and points, but the results are still widely distorted by individual competitions. The Champions League and the major international tournaments have such disproportionate weighting that a player could have a rubbish season but pull out 4 or 5 decent performances in a cup-winning team, and finish way ahead of someone who was outstanding week
Hopefully
in week
Messi
out
this year
season
in the
that
World
plays
Cup.
for a team that didn't win anything outside of the domestic
World Cup?
competitions. Just take 2008,
Oh, World Cup.
when Luka
What do you
Modric
smoke?
broke Messi and Ronaldo's duopoly over the Ballon d'Or that had existed since 2008. Now,
Oh.
I adore Luka Modric.
I thought you
and
said,
think
like, he's gonna
he
play
is an
World Cup this
absolutely
year.
world-class sensation of a footballer. However, had Real Madrid not won the Champions League in 2018, or had Croatia not enjoyed such a fantastic run to the final of the 2018 World Cup, it's possible that he wouldn't even have been nominated for the 2018 Ballon d'Or, let alone have won the award. Modric ended up winning an absolute landslide with 753 points. Meanwhile, Lionel Messi came 5th with 280 points. Messi was sublime in 2018, but despite winning La Liga, Barcelona only reached the quarterfinals of the Champions League that season, and Argentina disappointed at the World Cup finals in Russia. So, he finished fifth. No one who watched football in 2018 and has even a vague understanding of the sport would suggest that Messi was only the 5th best player on the planet in 2018. But all 4 of the players who finished above him won
What the fuck
either
is
the Champions
Nikita?
League or the World
Wait,
Cup,
look-
which often
look at the
tends
time,
to be
that-
what really matters. I also think that Luka Modric won the Ballon d'Or by such a landslide due to something of a Messi-Ronaldo fatigue, whereby people just wanted to see someone different
They're
get
down
their
bad
hands
for a
on it.
point.
But that is an altogether separate issue. This leads us nicely into some of the
Bro,
other
he said a
individual
celebration
awards,
looked like Pele scored
whether
like
it
the
be
World Cup
FIFA,
final goal.
the best awards, or the UEFA Men's Player of the Year. The
That
UEFA Men's Player of the Year award is very similar to the Ballon d'Or in terms of its format, just with a European slant, with one journalist and national team bosses of each of the UEFA affiliated nations allowed to vote.
Not like this.
Naturally, this leads to the same partisanship that we see in the Ballon d'Or voting, just with even more of a
If this goes in,
European
I
slant,
can
and
get
with
out.
more emphasis on the European Championships and the Champions League. So, since its inception in 2011, 8 out of the 10 winners of the award have been European, with the only
Bro,
exception being
what was this Pele weekend? Bro, I had a guy on that post. I had a guy on that post. Hey, my guy got scared. That's Mbappe right there. That's a fucking Kolo Omani squared the ball.
Wait, is this for the title? Oh my god. Oh
If
my
that's for the title,
Dude, I had double their shots though.
you won it.
I won it.
Yeah. Wait, no, there's a game remaining.
Oh my god.
Fair play, that was crazy. Did that guy came on after?
Dude, you
Did he-
don't know Nkita though?
No, I do. But did he come on after or was he on hold?
Yeah, he got subbed on. He subbed on. Scored 2 of the best goals I've seen in my fucking FIFA career.
We have a game left.
Not too bad, bro. I gotta sleep, work. and shit.
Same. Let's see.
See you, bro. Have a good night.
Were you fucking streaming that?
Yeah, the whole time.
Oh man. I said if he scores that, bro. What made you decide to go for a fucking bicycle?
I'm a believer, bro. What can I say?
He's a believer.
Let me show you.